And welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to the show. This is your Manchester United versus Norwich preview in the FA Cup. A little bit of a different energy, different vibe, different feel. It's FA Cup behind closed doors. Not that the FA Cup with fans was the most entertaining tournament for most people anyways. But I personally have a lot of respect for this trophy. I personally think it's very important. And it is part of the OG European treble if you're an English team anyways. So I take it very seriously. I don't know if the gentlemen with me on the show today take it very seriously. And that's what we're here to break down, as well as some talking points around this game. So do stick with us for the next hour, maybe hour and a half, as we break down this game and some of the things that could happen and whether or not we should play a weaker team. And if you're down for that, leave a like. Consider subscribing if you're new. And don't be shy to comment down below and engage with us. We do appreciate the engagement. Not only does it help the channel grow, but it's cool to know that the people watching our videos actually care enough to engage with us. So without any further ado, the odds of Norwich putting an upset in this game, out of 10, what do you guys think?
I think they could do it. A part of me thinks that Norwich could pull out something, depending on the team we pick and whether or not that team is on the day or what they do. But I think for the most part, United should get this job done. And, in terms of the FA Cup, I do feel like in modern times, it's lost a lot of credibility. But again, for me still, I kind of respect the FA Cup, not to a level where I would definitely try and compete with it week in, week out, as long as I'm in it. But I can also understand the point where people are just, they don't care really. They play a much weaker team. Like you've seen the likes of Liverpool, so, just putting any team out there just, to participate in the FA Cup. Obviously, their priorities were somewhere else. But yeah, I would still like to win this trophy. I do think this is still part of the treble. And yeah, a trophy is a trophy at the end of the day for me.
Imagine your priorities being somewhere else and you take 30 years to win the trophy. Embarrassing.
Yeah, definitely.
Look, I think our second team is more than capable to beat Norwich, because I think Norwich are crap. So I think we should win this game. But you never know. I think it'll be dependent on how we play. And in terms of the FA Cup means something, yeah, it means more than the Carabao Cup for sure. And there's a lot of history behind it. And it's a nice trophy to win. But I'll be honest, I'm not that fired up about it this year because I feel like our priorities are somewhere else. But winning it would be nice.
Yeah, that's a good point. Norwich, it's easy to look at the table and say Norwich are a really crap team. But at the end of the day, Norwich are a very capable team in the final third. On their day, at least. But, they still are a relegation team. And at the end of the day, the way they play, even if Norwich were a good side, even if Norwich hypothetically was a top 6 side, the way they play plays right into our hands. If we play a weaker team, we're going to sit back and just try hit them on the break anyways. So I would say from all angles, it's late for Norwich here, because if they sit back, we're going to unlock them. If they decide to go at us, we're still going to unlock them on the break. It's a win-win for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, depending on what team he plays, obviously.
It's like they've stuck to how they played throughout the whole season. They play expansive football, and it just hasn't worked from get-go. So it's really ridiculous, in my opinion.
I think Norwich is a lot different from other relegation teams, though. But like we said, because their manager and the way they play, obviously, clearly it hasn't worked for them in the league, But, I respect what they're trying to do, go out, attack, play their football, play nice football. I respect it, but, United should get this done. They really should get this done. I think even like what Maloto said, our second team should be good enough and capable of beating Norwich and going to the next round. And then I think, I think then we're in the semi-finals. So, yeah, it's close. We can win a trophy. And I think a trophy will be great for United fans.
If we win the FA Cup, we have just as many trophies as Liverpool, unless you actually count the Super Cup and those other whack trophies that they won, which delusional Liverpool fans will count them. So I've got no problems with that. If you're a delusional Liverpool fan listening to the show and you think the Super Cup actually counts as a trophy, even though it's a tournament where you ultimately play one game and it's decided over 90 minutes, just like the Community Shield and just like any other one-game tournament, then I've got nothing to say to you.
But
the Club World Cup. Oh, well done. You guys are so good. The Club World Cup is so hard. Well done. Well done. Oh, I'm sorry, Liverpool fans. You guys won the Club World Cup. I'm sorry. You're the greatest team of all time. Forget the team that nearly completed the quadruple last season. No, you guys are amazing because you won the Club World Cup and the Super Cup. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to wind you up. I'm so sorry. You guys are so amazing. I'm so sorry. And it's not like I've celebrated 13 Premier League titles with my team.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that feels like. You guys are clearly the best. I apologize. I'm sorry. I digress. This is not about Liverpool. These comments do not reflect the opinions of the Red Devils Africa. I apologize. I will be removing myself from the show after this incident. I really apologize.
Tough time never lasts, guys. Come on.
No, I'm sick of these.
No, but for real, it's bad, guys. It's bad. Oh,
No,
yeah, it's bad.
It's only bad because these Liverpool fans, their heads have gone from the size of a peanut to the size of the biggest balloon you've ever seen. It's ridiculous. They win one trophy and all of a sudden they think they've arrived. Where was this energy when they won the Champions League? Because I thought that was personally, I think that was really impressive, considering
waiting for this.
Yeah.
30 years is a long time.
It is a long time, but imagine Leicester called themselves the best team in the world after what they did. We'd be laughing at them.
Yeah,
So why is the energy different with Liverpool? I don't get it. But Liverpool, I was talking to a City fan yesterday, and he might be listening to the show today, and he said Liverpool fans are delusional. He actually said Manchester United fans are better than Liverpool fans because at least when we brag about things that make sense and not one-game trophies that ultimately don't mean anything in the grander scheme of things. I mean, if you ask a Liverpool fan, they technically did the quadruple this season, even though they knocked out of all the major trophies. Except the league, obviously. But, they seriously are delusional. They really are. But no, actually, jokes aside, well done to Liverpool. Well done. You guys really deserve that you played well in the league. But it is dark times for United. We're supposed to be talking about Norwich, but now we're talking about Liverpool. It's tough.
Avoid the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
It's not fun. But look, the FA Cup, whatever you think of the FA Cup, right? Let's not dwell too much on Liverpool. Let's actually talk about what we need to talk about. Whatever you think of the FA Cup, whatever you think of this game, ultimately Norwich is the team that took out Spurs, and they also beat Spurs in a preseason friendly leading up to the restart of the season. They've lost every game since that friendly, obviously, but this is a team that could potentially win an FA Cup whilst being relegated, which would be kind of funny for history. I don't think it will happen. Even if they do beat us, I don't see them going all the way. But I'm just saying, we need to respect the opposition. And I think I would have no problems with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer playing a second team because it's an opportunity for the other players to show that they want to start, They want to start. Like, when people criticize Jurgen Klopp for playing a weak team in the FA Cup or a weak team in the Carabao Cup, okay, fine. Maybe Liverpool aren't prioritizing those trophies, right? But the way I've always chose to see it, and I've told you guys off air, this has always been my philosophy. If I was a manager in the Premier League, I wouldn't play a strong team in those cups either, unless it was at the serious end. Not because I don't respect those cups, but because I think it's an opportunity for the youth to prove themselves, right? If you want game time, win this match so we make it through to the next round. Prove yourself. Show me in a difficult game in the knockout stages of a tournament that you might consider big because you're a young player who's never won anything in his life. Show me that you are ready and up for the challenge, and I will start you in some of the league games if you do well and have a good run in the tournament. That's the way I choose to see it. So if I see Romero, Williams, Dalot, Pereira, whoever plays in this game, I want to see them go hard and prove why they deserve to be in the first team. I don't want to see them slack off and be like, oh, well, it ultimately doesn't matter, so we're just going to, hold the ball for 60 minutes when we're 2-0 up again. No, play like it's a normal game and play like your life depends on it. That's the way I choose to look at it. I know everybody doesn't look at it that way, but and I know it sounds stupid in hindsight because a lot of big teams have been knocked out of these tournaments for not taking it seriously. But that just goes to prove the point that youth shouldn't play in the Premier League because if they're bottling it against teams like Norwich, ultimately, why would you play them in a tournament that matters so much to you, especially if you're Liverpool? And even if you're not Liverpool, what if you just want to make top 4 and you want to keep your team fit for that?
It depends on your aspirations. If you're not really interested in winning them, then fine, you can play them. But it's very hard. It's very rare that a second team, a big team, wins the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. We saw with Man City. The first season Pep was here. he didn't really take it seriously. He played a second team and they didn't win it. But since then, he's seen that if he wants to win every trophy, he has to play some of his first team players in these trophies. And knowing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think he might do that. I think he really wants a trophy. I think he wants a trophy.
Yeah, I've got no problems with that. Look, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be all or nothing into the FA Cup or all or nothing into the league. I think that's stupid. At the end of the day, you have 5 substitutions to make in the league. I'm not sure what the regulations will be in the FA Cup, but assuming the regulations are per normal, you have 3 substitutions to make in the FA Cup across 90 minutes and potentially extra time or a replay if they want to be stubborn in these tough times and still enforce the replays, which I think is dumb. You have the time to play different players. You can make a blended squad. You don't have to play a completely weak team. You can start Pogba, rest Bruno, or start Bruno, rest Pogba, and then start Fred and McTominay next to one of them. There's options. There's options. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, because ultimately, as I've tried to express in the past, you could rest Pogba, Bruno, Matic, and they could still get injured in a Premier League game. Like, that's a possibility. So you might as well just take a few risks if you're a manager in terms of that. And it's a trophy, dog. Like, it's a trophy. Do we really want to be like Spurs where we're just making top 4? It's a trophy. It's a trophy. I don't care what you say. It's a trophy. Manchester United win trophies. We've been winning trophies in the last 7 years. And yes, we're not happy of them because we want to win the Premier League and the bigger trophies. But we need trophies to maintain that status. We don't want to become another Arsenal or another Tottenham.
True.
Where we're just content with making top.
We just prioritizing the bigger problems because we need top 4. We need the revenue from the Champions League. But I hear what you're saying. And I agree with you. I wouldn't agree so much if, let's say, we're playing the Europa League at the same time as these tournaments, because I feel like our schedule would be extremely hectic. So now that the Europa League is going to be after the Premier League and the FA Cup, I think he can afford to play some of his first team players.
Definitely. And look, even if the season had gone as normal, right? If we were in the final of the FA Cup now, and we were in the semi-final of the Europa League right now, in our second leg against a team that we beat 4-1 at Old Trafford in the first leg, for argument's sake, I would say in the Europa League game, play your weaker team. In the FA Cup game, because it's a final, play your stronger team so we can actually win the tournament. Mm-hmm. And then if we weren't in top 4 at this point in the season, as per normal, I'd be like, solid. Because why would you give up the Europa League semi-final/final, the FA Cup final, if you might not even make top 4? For argument's sake, if Leicester was still playing well, you know? But obviously, that's not happening. Times have changed. The Premier League has come back and has taken priority and has taken precedence over everything else. So we have to adjust to the times. And I got no problems if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thinks top 4 is the most important thing, because it's there. It's right there. I think we're only 6 points behind Leicester now because they've had such a crap start. And it's only going to get worse for them because they have some difficult games coming up. So unfortunately, our neighbours in the blue couldn't do a favour for us. You know, they had one job.
They had one job. One.
They had one job.
I had money on that game. Bloody hell.
Fraud of a manager.
Well, actually, they had 2 jobs, but you know, because of COVID, even pre-COVID, they couldn't fill up the stadium anyways. So the other job we wanted them to do was beat Chelsea, and they still couldn't do that. So I've never been so mad at City when we're not playing them than I am now.
Yeah, I was even telling my dad it was a Liverpool supporter. It wasn't even about that. It was about me getting top 4. That's what it was all about for me. And I control would have still given Liverpool the title. It wasn't about it. It was just about Chelsea not gaining more points than they needed to get. And yesterday, fair play to Chelsea though. Fair play to Chelsea, but oh my goodness, that was the worst I've ever seen City play.
Yeah, Mark even said they threw the game.
They did.
That's right. That
game was horrible
for Liverpool.
They did though, and it's upsetting. The predicted XI, I think, is what we should be focusing on now in this game. I think it's not that hard.
I don't know if this is going to be the team at all. I think we should, debate about some of these things here, because yesterday when I was making it, I have no clue. I have no clue.
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. There's the one way to look at it: what will Ole Gunnar Solskjaer do based on evidence, which is what I like to do, and what do we want to happen? What we want to happen, or what I want to happen, because I can't speak for everybody. What I want to happen is this team right here. I think Mata should be playing
this exact
games.
team.
Yes, this exact. Oh wait! Not Maguire. Put Lindelof there instead of Maguire, because Maguire needs to rest. He's not Captain America, and maybe Delo instead of Wan-Bissaka, and maybe Romero in goals. But
Oh
other
yeah,
than those three,
yeah. I don't know why I put that.
everyone.
I meant
Yeah.
but it's just a habit.
I don't know about Wan-Bissaka starting against Norwich because I don't know what his fitness levels are, and I don't want him to get injured. But it is what it is. But this team right here needs to start bar those three that I mentioned at the beginning. What Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will do, I don't know. I think he's going to start Pereira because I haven't seen Mata. I've seen Mata in the training videos, but I haven't seen Mata on the bench, and I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just blind. Was Mata on the bench in any of the two games?
He played against Sheffield. He came on.
He came on. Okay.
Insane amount of subs, I think.
Yeah, he made like 4 subs at once. Oh no, if he came on, then yeah, I can see Mata playing then.
Now,
If Mata's fitness levels are to scratch, I don't know why he wouldn't start Mata and potentially Pereira. He might start Pereira on the right wing.
What I think could happen is Romero was supposed to be there. That was a mistake on my side, my bad. I think that backline is very possible. The midfield, I kind of agree with Marcus. I think this midfield is very possible also, but I do kind of picture an Andreas or even one of our Pogba or Bruno. But just last night when I was also thinking, for some Greenwood. I don't think Greenwood's gonna play. For some reason, I have a funny suspicion it'll be Rashford, Igalo, and James.
I have a suspicion that Pereira and Mata will both play and Greenwood will miss out. So either Pereira is going to play on the right wing or Mata is going to play on the right wing, and the other one's going to play Cam. That's what I think is.
You don't think Rashford will start?
I don't know if Rashford will actually.
Because if you put Rashford, Igalo, and then James, that seems like an Oli lineup.
It does.
It does seem like an Oli lineup, but it seems like the kind of Oli lineup that Oli would have played in a game where he was playing for his job. Now, with top 4 open and with all the things happening at the moment, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's mindset has changed drastically. And, I don't know. I don't know if this Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will risk Rashford in a game like this. I think Rashford will come on if we need him, 100%. Why wouldn't he? But, I don't know. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer right now is in a different mindset than he was back then. Because back then, the reason why Maguire, Rashford, and a few other players were being run into the ground was because we didn't have any other choice. We had to play Rashford in the Europa League games because that's how crap we were in the group stages. We had to do it, But now with the positivity and everything in the team and the amount of squad depth we have because of, the recoveries from injuries, I don't know, but we'll see. It's just my opinion.
I think, of course, we'll see Romero. I don't think we'll see Wan-Bissaka. I think Delo will play. I think Maguire will play. I think Lindelof should play, but knowing Ole, he trusts Maguire. He doesn't trust the pairing of Lindelof and Bailly. And I think it'll be Maguire and Bailly. Williams, definitely. Then the midfield will be exactly as it is. James, yes. Igalo, yes. Greenwood, I don't think so. I think he wants to preserve him for the league games, so I can potentially see a Chong.
Chong?
Yeah, Chong, possibly. I definitely think Mata and Andres will be one of the right wingers, But I'm not going to be arrogant and say, mark my words or anything like that because I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know because I don't know. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could do anything, but I don't think he'll repeat his mistakes in the past because times are so different. I don't think his job is on the line at the moment. And I think we're in a very positive place. I mean, what is it now? 11 games unbeaten since Bruno's joined the team. So
since Bruno's joined, we haven't been beaten.
Yeah, there's a massive shift in confidence in this team, and I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's decision making now will change. That's why I don't know. If you can't rest Maguire against Norwich, when are you resting Maguire? That's all I would ask Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If you can't rest Maguire against Norwich, when are you going to rest this guy? If you can't trust your depth against Norwich, when are you going to trust your depth?
Yeah.
I'll feel really upset if Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, and another first-teamer start in this game. If 3 of them. If I see Maguire and no Wan-Bissaka, fine. I'll let it slide. Because I'll be like, okay, he's captain, cool, sharp.
Yeah.
But he can't start more than 2
first teamers. What I would want to know is, Moloto, I would say you an advocate, of Delo. Would you start Delo in this game?
I definitely
have to.
I think Norwich going to sit deep, so his offensive side can be really useful in this game.
And other than that, what's your justification for risking Wan-Bissaka? Why do we need one of the best right backs in the world against Norwich? What? What? That makes no sense. That's like starting Martial. Yeah, that's like starting Martial. That's like starting our best striker and saying we need him against Norwich. Like, can you hear how crazy that sounds? We're so scared of Norwich that we're going to play one of our first team.
As Marcus says, I think at the moment there's a clear pathway to the Champions League, into the top 4. The Europa League looks likely with our squad, so he's not under pressure.
He's changed. I think the Sheffield game is a sign that this guy has changed. Because
the Sheffield game was, for me,
because
the
usually
first step, a step forward.
How many times have we sat here and looked at the team sheet and said, why is this guy going with this team? Why is this guy doing that?
Yeah.
Why is this guy doing this? Sheffield, he did exactly what everyone in the fan base wanted.
Exactly.
Like, pinpoint.
Perfect.
And
It was perfect.
Yeah, and look, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I don't believe it was a coincidence. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saw what happened against Spurs, and he was like, I need to make changes, and I have the squad depth to make the changes. And so ultimately, I really, really think his mindset has changed, but we'll see.
And also what I would say is that, with this midfield, Fred has been good this season. He came off again from lockdown, and who knows how he'll play. But Fred is good, Before Pogba came back, Fred was good. McTominay is good. So I actually have faith in this midfield to definitely at least do it against Norwich.
Yeah, no, against Norwich is a powerful midfield, and
Yeah.
I think Fred definitely needs the minutes.
Again, if you can't play this team against Norwich, when are you going to play this team? Again, that's the point I'll keep going back to. It's Norwich. It's Norwich. I understand it's the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, but it's Norwich. It's not a mid-tier. It's Norwich. They're at the rock bottom of the table, And I can't believe these guys beat Spurs. That just shows how done Mourinho is, but that's not what the show's about. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about in this game, because I think what's more important is the games that follow up after this. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said something very positive in the press conference this morning. I think I'm not sure what the exact quote was, but he basically said something along the lines of, Sir Alex Ferguson was really good at keeping us at the top over prolonged periods of time, so he wants to make sure that we don't have to wait 30 years or even longer for our next title. Or 26 years, technically.
Shade.
I mean, it is shade, but at the same time, it's like, it's true.
it's true though. Yeah, it's true.
It's shade, but it's true. We don't want to be another Liverpool. Everybody knows we're talking about Liverpool. We don't want to become another Liverpool. And this is something I was scared of is immediately when Ferguson left. When Ferguson left and we sacked Moyes, this was something I called back when I was in high school in grade 8, and nobody would listen to me. None of the United fans at the time, including some of you on the show, actually, he knows who he is, wouldn't listen to me. I said, we are at risk of becoming another Liverpool because it doesn't matter how much money we have. It doesn't matter how wealthy or how big the club status is. You need to get that out of your head. If you can't use money in the right areas and get the right people, not just at the top, but the right coach, the right medical staff, the right team, the right reserve team, the right bench, the right manager, the right assistant manager next to him, and then the right people working in the club and generate the right energy and just, get the luck that you need in order to stay at the top. It's the margins between success and failure are so fragile in football, especially over long periods of time. And I think Manchester United, well, ultimately we haven't won anything worthwhile in the last 7 years, so we're already becoming like Liverpool. But in 2014, I called this shit. I was like, if we keep sacking managers and we don't actually sit with one manager and try and see out the project, we're going to end up like Liverpool. Because every time a manager comes to this club, they have to fix the crap that the last manager messed up, and then they also have to deal with the crap from the board. And it's like they're playing with one arm tied behind their back. And that's why I want to see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer stay. Not because I believe he's the guy, not because I believe he's the man. I just think he'll leave the club in a better place for the next manager, and that's the best thing for Manchester United at the moment. Because if we sack him, we're back at square one. We're back to, let's wait until the summer so that he gets his players. And then in the summer, we sell 2 people, we buy 1 person, we don't replace the other person that we sold, and we're back having the same conversation on a podcast in 2021. And I'll be losing my mind, pulling my hair out if that happens. But hopefully it doesn't get to that.
But what I will say is, I don't think the board and the owners I don't think they could care less, honestly. But I do think that Oli cares. I do think that Oli is taking the situation and I do feel like Oli thinks is this is not acceptable. Oli, I think inside will be fuming.
And I think whatever your opinion is of Ed Woodward, as I've always said, this guy spent a lot of money on this club. He hasn't spent the money smartly, but he spent a lot of money. Ed Woodward loves a big signing every window. And that's one thing you can't fault him for. Yes, you can talk about the net spend, but ultimately under Fergie, we also had a net spend. Fergie famously said you have to sell to buy at Manchester United. You sell every season and you buy. That's how you keep the competition in the team. That's how you keep people hungry and motivated. That's how you rebuild every 3 or 4 seasons to stay at the top as a dynasty. You can't just keep the same core squad, and I would advise Liverpool to think about that a little bit. They can't just keep the players they have now. What happens if Salah gets injured? What happens if Mane gets injured? They need bench players who are hungry and willing to take those positions every 3 years in rotation. That's what Fergie did well. So my point with what I'm saying is Ed Woodward hasn't done that in the right way, and he hasn't gone after the right profile of players until recently. But he has shown that he's willing to spend the money.
We're on the right path.
We're on the right path. We're on the right path. There are some positives from the last 7 years. All I want from Ed Woodward and those owners, besides selling their boats and whatever else they bought with the money that they've stolen from this club, all I want from them is to see out the bloody project and stop making decisions based on short-termism, because that's what Liverpool did for 30 years until Klopp. They actually waited 5 years with Klopp, or 4.5 years, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
And look what happened. Imagine if they had sacked Klopp because he lost the Europa League final. Imagine where Liverpool would be now. We wouldn't hear the end of it. City, like Manchester, would be blue at this point. We wouldn't hear the end of it if they had sacked Klopp.
It's hard. I think with Klopp it worked out because of the brand of football Klopp played and how.
And I think also because of his past at Dortmund.
Yes.
They could see a beautiful project. With a manager like Ole, it does become very hard. And I'm not saying you should fire them, you should see it out, but it does become hard when they're playing very boring, depressing football and they're still not winning.
Yes, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But people who talk about Klopp's playing style, please go watch Liverpool for the first 3 seasons before they won the Champions League, and tell me that was good football. Please go watch Liverpool when they were losing. No, if your opinion was that it was good football and that was good enough, cool. I can't fault you because it worked out. But I didn't think Liverpool were good enough in the first 3 seasons when Klopp was there. I was like, you're playing fancy football. You're playing fancy football, but you can't beat Crystal Palace. It doesn't matter. That's my opinion. You may disagree, and if you disagree, you were right all along because Klopp was the guy. But my point is, Klopp was the right guy, but Klopp for 3 seasons did not look like the right guy, especially from us opposition fans. We laughed at Liverpool for 3 years. Like, look, they score so many goals, but they can't stop conceding to save their life. And then Van Dijk came in and it all changed, and they became good. And that's what I think is with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Not just with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, with every manager we've had. Yes, you can look at the football of every manager we've had since Fergie and say the football has been crap, it's been terrible. But have they had the players that they needed to play the right playing style? Majority of the time, the answer is no. And why? Because they did not see out the project. 2.5 seasons, you're done. 3 seasons, you're done. Get out. And it's like, it's unfair. And in hindsight, no, we shouldn't have had Van Gaal and Mourinho as a manager because their football was terrible. And you could say the same about Oli, but things are changing now. But like,
we're on a good path. Like, let's not get blinded that, United are in a good space at the moment, in terms of other stuff, what we're doing, like we're getting.
Oli's football went from depressing to good after one signing. Imagine if they just signed a full team of players for him over the next course.
I get you, and you're right. But the point I was making is that the perception of the pundits and the Liverpool fans by looking at the style was of a positive one, of a future, maybe not immediately, of a bright future. So I'm saying that influenced them not sacking him. And
definitely.
I feel
you're 100% right.
Every man if you give him time, really.
Yeah, like that's the thing, bro. That's the thing. Like, if you look at Liverpool's history since the last league title they won, they have sacked a lot of managers. And I don't know much about Liverpool's history, and I could be wrong. Okay, this is just an opinion. This is not facts, And if I'm right, cool. But there have been Liverpool managers in the past who've played good football and have failed.
That's true. But I feel and this might be me fishing, but I feel like the demeanor under Klopp was much better than it was under Brendan Rodgers at the end.
No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. I'm not arguing that Klopp wasn't the right guy. That's not what I'm doing. The point I'm trying to make is there were managers before Jurgen Klopp who played good football at Liverpool, right? And they still got sacked. I think Liverpool finally learned from their mistakes and said, listen, this guy's clearly done it somewhere else. Let's give it time. Let's give it faith. Yes, there were I don't know what the right word is. There were external factors that influenced it outside of the football, like the fact that this guy did well at Dortmund, the fact that this guy is very positive, the fact that this guy, he might not be the best in press conferences, but unlike Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he seems more media trained. He's drive, he's motivation.
The fans sing,
he loves the fans,
also,
love him. He loves the fans. Everyone loves Klopp at Liverpool. Those things all played a part, and those are the kinds of things that money can't buy. Those are the things that money can't buy. You can't go looking for a manager, right, and say, okay, we're going to sign this manager and he's going to come to our club and we're going to keep him here for 5 years only because the fans like him. You don't know that the fans are going to like him for the full 5 years. They might turn on him halfway through, like Emery at Arsenal, right? So those are the things that money can't buy, and that's where the luck comes in. You know, Klopp was just at the right place at the right time. But if Liverpool and the owners had decided to cut the cord at 2.5 seasons, they would have been totally justified in some people's eyes, and it would have been the wrong decision. And they've done that time and time again. How many times were we close to having a Klopp at Liverpool? Like, how many times in the past were we that close? We'll never know, obviously, because you can't, the life just doesn't work like that. You can't see. It's not a video game. You can't see what the other alternative is and go back to your autosave. But the point I'm trying to make is it's so fragile. There's so many factors, and you just never know. And I think with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, even though it creates a massive divide in the fan base, at least there are people who like him. Whereas unlike under Jose and Van Gaal and Moyes, there was just a lot of toxicity.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of toxicity. Even
like,
if
I
you're
still
pro
want
Van
Ole
Gaal.
to do well, obviously. Like, you know, obviously I'd love Poch.
Yeah.
I still want Ole to do well because he's a United legend.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just my opinion, and that would be my opinion on Ole until he goes and loses like 10 games in a row. Then things start to change a little bit. But I just think, you know, so many managers could have been the one for Liverpool in the past. But anyways, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to talk about on the show, really. There wasn't really anything else exciting.
I guess him being a legend helps the cause as well, because the club won't
100%.
get pressured as they usually are to fire the manager.
100%.
Oh, there was one thing Oli said in the press conference. It was on Wan-Bissaka. He said that I saw an exceptional defender when I watched him last season, and when we signed him, I saw a boy who wants to learn and improve. He wants to go forward, create chances, and provide assists. I'm very happy with his progress. So it does seem like they're definitely going to try to develop that side of Aaron's game, at least from Oli's words.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to sound cynical, but I think that's obvious. Like, I think we as football fans, and this is not a criticism of football fans because we're all human, okay? We're all human. We only have an opinion based on the limited perspective that we see on the television, or if you're lucky enough to actually go to games and watch them live. That's your perspective of the team. You don't see what happens in training. You don't see what happens behind closed doors. But ultimately, I think it's obvious that every player wants to improve. Like, I don't need to hear that Wan-Bissaka is developing that side of the game. He's a professional footballer who gets paid to play football for a living, who has ambitions and aspirations of becoming the best player in his position. I think it's obvious that he should want to improve, and I think every football player should want to improve their weak areas, you know? I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I think that's, you know, it's just obvious. Like even Romero, he's become a better keeper since he's come to Old Trafford. It's obvious. You want to become a better keeper, you know? Is that just me?
Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
true.
So it's great to hear Oli say that, don't get me wrong, but it's like, if he comes out and says the same thing about Pereira tomorrow, are we going to be surprised?
Such
Are
an
we going to
Oli-
be like, oh, Pereira's working on his defensive game. Okay, cool. He'll be
such an
a
Oli
top
thing to say,
tier.
dude. Oli is such a cheesy manager.
Yeah. I'm really sorry about the background noise, by the way. It's construction. I can't do anything about it. It's unfortunate, but yeah. Score predictions.
I think, even with the weaker team, I think United can win this 2-0.
Safe.
Safe, yeah.
I'm gonna say the same thing, so I'm gonna go 3-1.
Well, I think 4-1 would even be safe because like we've done it before to this team. So, 4-0 actually would be safe. Sorry.
I don't know. I just don't trust the second team midfield to be that ruthless.
It's funny you say that because the team that beat Norwich 4-0 was actually Mata, Pereira, and someone else in the midfield. And then Rashford.
Rashford and Martial and all of them, I assume.
Yeah. No, definitely. But there were a lot of perceived second team players in that team back at the time before Bruno and Pogba came into the mix. Everyone back then was a first team player. and we beat them 4-0. I'm just saying. But you're
At a
totally
point,
justified.
actually, some of us wanted this midfield to start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At a point, this was
Very
the
true.
midfield. But
Hey,
anyways,
we've come a long way, boys. We've come a long way.
yeah. But anyways, hopefully we won't be eating any humble pies after Norwich. This was your Manchester United versus Norwich match preview. It was more about Liverpool and dynasties than it was about Norwich, because ultimately there's not much to talk about when it comes to Norwich. They're a team that is capable on their day. They lack the quality in the final third to consistently produce the results they want with the football they play. Yes, they can pull an upset. Yes, anything can happen. Yes, it's not over until the fat lady sings, yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, we beat this team 4-0 before with a squad that looked hopeless and made us feel like at United fans, we were at the lowest. We're at the bottom of the barrel, you know. So with that said, I think at the moment, with all the positivity around the club, we shouldn't lose this game. Even if we play our third team, for crying out loud, we should not lose this game. And hopefully, I won't be eating any humble pie. But yeah, from us at the team, thank you for listening. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace out.